Good morning, App Properties. Thanks for joining us. It's Tuesday, November 10th. I'm Amy Core, and I'm live out of the Elmhurst office, and I've got Kevin Van Eck with me, who's live out of Goose Island. So grab your mug and join us for another episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin.
Yes, good morning, Amy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Make sure you've got your cup of coffee full and ready to go because we've got a great episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin here. Today, we're going to be talking about value statements. That's what we're talking about this whole week. And yesterday, when we were talking about value statements, we learned that a value statement conveys why someone should work with you. In fact, your value statement ideally should be so strong that they don't have a choice to make. There's no decision, that they opt working with you right then. And also how your value statement is not just about the immediate client that you're talking with then, but also how it will help referrals and create a referral tree for you into the future. So we do have a special guest with us today, right, Amy?
We sure do, and I am so excited. I'm actually really excited about this week because value statements are so important for each and every one of us. And I'm actually, we both are here with Tom Downing, who in just 5 years developed a phenomenal referral-based business. In fact, in his first year as a rookie, he won the Rolex, which was phenomenal. And one thing he did spend time on when he first got into the business was really focusing on the concept of what makes me different? What is my value differentiator? And he is going to share with us today some of the things he put into place to really create a value statement that was top-notch in his marketplace, and it helped him sell his prospects and his referral sources. So Tom, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've got my coffee cup here and ready to go.
Fully loaded. I love it. So Tom, let's talk about you getting into the business here in Chicago. I know that you were in Minnesota with Edina Real Estate for about a year before you moved here. But let's face it, coming to Chicago, you knew you were going to essentially start over. You know, what were some of the things you thought about as you went about building your business?
You know, that's a good memory. It was 5 years ago, and I remember it very well because I was very nervous. You know, I was a new agent. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a referral system. I hadn't lived in Chicago in 25 years. It's just been a long time, and I was really nervous about getting back into the business, frankly, or starting it here in Chicago. So for me, the biggest thing that was going through my mind, frankly, was how am I going to get customers? How am I going to grow this business? And I can't even imagine what that first sale is going to feel like. I do remember it very well.
So talking about value statement and starting your business, did you ever actually sit down and write out a value statement or think about, you know, as a business owner, what your core values, your mission, vision, all of that? Did you ever take the time to figure that out?
I did. You know, in a previous life, I was a consultant for other companies, and creating value statements was sort of just an elementary aspect of starting your business. So I had to look at it that way, and I treated it like a business right from the very beginning. So I broke down sort of my values, vision, and mission and how that would look. I reversed it. And I know that the values that I wanted to portray in my business was hard work. And I have it actually, I'll probably just show you real quick. I'm such a nerd, but I actually had written it out on exactly what it would look like. And I had it hanging on my wall. But hard work, extraordinary results, accountability. I always wanted to be learning and part of a learning culture, trustworthiness, and humility. And those to me were sort of key differentiators, as well as being the basis of how I was going to grow my business. Some of that was based on what I saw around me, and some of it was based on how I could distinguish myself from people that were selling in my area.
So you mentioned it just briefly, and yesterday in the morning on Monday, we mentioned that agents should really work on their biggest differentiators. And some of those are things coming from experience outside of real estate. And we wanted them to list them out and then pick the 3 strongest or most impactful. You know, it sounds like you did have a list of differentiators. You know, how did you come up with those? And what would you recommend for agents, you know, when they're thinking about how to differentiate themselves from all of the other brokers that are out there?
You know, the temptation is to start looking at what the big agents are doing in your area and seeing what they do, and then, you know, deciding how you're going to either emulate that or be different than that. But honestly, I think the biggest part for me was just being true to yourself. There is enough business for everybody, and so just by picking 3 things that actually are your values and are going to be part of who you are and, you know, part of your makeup is going to be the easiest thing to do. So as we did it, and as I started to grow a team, that changed a little bit to encompass everybody that was with me.
So with that, was there a time that you can think of after you determined your values where you feel like you really were able to convey your value statement to somebody where you knew and you felt that they made a decision right then and there? Do you have something to share with that?
Yeah, I remember this very well. I mean, there was two incidences, but one in particular where I was speaking with a woman. I was fairly new to the business. She was looking for an experienced agent. I didn't have a lot of experience at that point, so I was a little nervous about it. But she did say, you know, the fact that you talked about your values and your enthusiasm for what you're doing and how you're approaching this made you hands down the winner. And she said, I'm basing this 100% on your enthusiasm for doing this job.
That's such a great story because I think people underestimate, being authentic and just being excited about working with people. And I think conveying that as part of your value and having the time to really sit down and listen to individuals and their stories, that goes a long way. So, for new brokers, I think that's something really important to always remember and think about. So Tom, on Saturday, you and I actually grabbed a cup of coffee and we were talking about value statements. Yes, on the weekend, we're such nerds. But one of the things you had talked about was during your time of selling, you would create sort of a group of people around you that would reinforce the value of working with you and your team throughout the entire process. And I absolutely loved this concept. It's actually something that I would encourage brokers to do, but I want you to share with our audience right now, what you did to kind of push your value forward by using the partners that you had in the business.
So yeah, I have to give a shout out to one of my teammates, Julie Schultz, who helped quite a bit with this. But one of the things that we did was look at it from an experiential standpoint. So I would talk to the front desk and just let them know, and this is something that we've seen in our training. It wasn't anything really that new for me, but I actually implemented it, which is new for me. And that was to talk to the front desk, let them know that Mr. and Mrs. Smith are going to be coming. When they get there, just say, Tom's been expecting you, and then offer a drink and have them sit down. That was one part. And the second part was with our attorney, we did all of our work with and continue to do. She's an amazing attorney. And one of the things I asked her is, would you be willing to, at least 2 or 3 times during your relationship and during that time that you're talking to them, saying you're in really good hands with Tom and Tom's team. And also spoke with our lender, with the lender that we used quite a bit at that time. She did the exact same thing and said, you're in good hands, use that same phrase. And then lastly, I was very lucky to use Proper Title quite a bit and the same title closer, just coincidentally. And she was kind of almost naturally really good about saying, oh, you're with Tom's group, you're in really good hands. And that's really critical because it makes it seem seamless from the beginning to the end. But the part that was the most telling through this whole thing was that on our reviews, when we got the reviews back, people would use the exact same words in their description of how it was to work with us, where they said, I felt like I was in really good hands. Everything from the beginning to the end was seamless. And sometimes you just have to tell people that's the experience they're having as they're having it so that they know it.
That's really impressive. That's such a great idea. If you're watching this episode right now, please rewind and watch that section again. Just watch what Tom said, because I know most of us probably are not doing this, where we're leveraging our partnerships to be able to convey our value statement. That's super impressive, Tom. That's really cool. Great idea. One question I want to ask, I want to go back to teams. You talked about it just for a second at the beginning of this episode. What had to change when you started a team? Because I know sometimes we're a little bit skeptical, worried, nervous that when we have a team that we're not going to be able to convey the same value, because no longer is it just about us, it's about our team. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great question because it's a little hard. It's hard when you start a team because now you're giving up a little bit of your control of the way that you do business. But what makes a team really successful, in my opinion, is actually taking the strengths of all the people on there, right? So if one of our values is more mine, but not everyone's sharing it, then how are we going to, one, get around that value? Humility was one that we worked on, or the hard work and extraordinary results. Those types of things as people start to work it out. It changed. It went from 5 to 3. And basically, what we agreed between all of us was that what people were getting when they worked with us was experience. And with experience came trustworthiness, that we know what we're doing there. Local expertise, and that was around especially because team members were local experts in each of their areas, but also just the expertise and what people want when they're looking in our areas. And the last part was fun. And I know that sounds sort of silly to have that as a value, but people want to work with people they like. And if you are fun and you can do this in a way that shows both trustworthiness and expertise and still have fun doing it, that's the kind of client we were working towards.
I love it. I love that one of your big focuses was having fun, because while real estate can be such a stressful thing for people, there is still this aspect of enjoying yourself and, having fun while you're doing it. So I know you recently made the decision to move out of selling and take on the new role as managing broker of the Winnetka office. In fact, that space looks very familiar to me. The office looks great. And I know you've already started coaching many of the Winnetka brokers, in one-on-one sessions. What are one or two things that you're suggesting your brokers do as they focus on their brand identity and then, more importantly, their value proposition?
I am really lucky to work with very, very experienced brokers in this area. This is down to a science in the Winnetka office. And so as we're starting to think about coaching and what we're going to do for next year, I think what the biggest thing I've learned are two things, really. One is just to focus on what you do really well and expand that. And second is to always have an attitude of learning. By that, I mean, no matter how busy we get or how much we're doing, the fact is the matter is we continuously learn. Sometimes we've heard these things before, we've gone down the road because we've done this a few times. I just know for me, I needed that reminder all the time. And that also became kind of a big part of our team too. We would look at the fact that, yes, we've heard this before, but I absolutely needed this reminder. And by the way, did I put this in practice? Because it's one thing to hear it and say, yes, I've seen this. It's another thing then to take it and start to put it in practice. And for me, I'm a slow learner. It took me 6 or 7 times to actually hear it before I started to really implement it.
So one last question. I want to kind of hone in on newer brokers in the business, because I know it's been 5 years, but I'm sure that you can still kind of remember being brand new, going into a market that's competitive, filled with seasoned brokers. People might come in and feel like I don't have a very big sphere just yet. What one thing would you recommend as a new broker that I focus on to really increase my value proposition and start getting some traction?
It's a great question. And I'm just putting myself back to that time frame, and also with some of the new agents I'm working with, is don't overthink it. There's so much that you're doing. You're so nervous. You're just worried about your next sale and how you're going to make this all work. Do not overthink it. Take the best quality that you have, or one of your best qualities. If you don't know what that is, ask for a friend and just say, what is it like to work with me? And then just be relaxed with it and build off of that, because it's going to change. You're going to continue to grow, but just pick something that really you feel natural. It feels natural to you, I should say. It feels authentic, and that you can convey very easily as you go out there. It'll grow. It'll change as you continue to get more business. It's all about Love Program, for example. That's a great opportunity for you to just dial right into something that's being done for us. It's been something that I've dialed into in the past, programs like this, and it's really been something that's been a big part of my business and growing my business. This has been one of the best ones I've seen, in all honesty. It's based on what you guys asked for. It's quick. It's to the point. It doesn't disrupt your day. And in fact, if anything, it kickstarts my day and just really getting me focused on what needs to take place for what I need to do. I've also been really impressed by the agents in my office that are higher producers that are doing it themselves. And they've also shown that regardless of what level you're at, this really does work, and it's important. It's an important reminder.
Tom, thank you for joining us today. This has been great. You've shared a wealth of information. And one of the things I want to go back to that maybe slipped under the radar is this story you told about when you really feel like you were able to convey your value statement and it was received. And that person told you that it was your enthusiasm. And I really love that, because anyone that knows you knows about your enthusiasm. They can feel it when they talk with you. And I wanted to point that out before we wrap, simply because people are attracted to people that have energy. People are attracted to people that are enthusiastic. And so I really appreciate that, Tom. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks,
so
guys.
As we wrap, one reminder here is to make sure to register for Thursday's Ninja Accelerator. This week, we're talking about your value proposition. Surprise. It's the theme of the week, but what we're going to really dive into is how and what creates a great value proposition. So remember, you can access all of the It's All About Love videos, including all of the Monday kickoffs, the Coffee with Amy and Kevin's, and the Thursday Ninja Accelerators, What Would Golden Wong Do, and our Friday messages, all within the Agent app in the featured posts on the left side menu. When you click featured, you'll be able to access everything, and make sure you've downloaded your packet for week 6 so you can work on your value proposition. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Refill your coffee for the rest of the day. And remember,
Love yourself.
love others.
And love what you do.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, guys. Make it a good one.